Okay, this is going to be strange because I've done talks all over the world, big institutions, small institutions, whatever. This one is awkward because it's very personal to me, obviously, very, very personal. This was supposed to be, Hew, come and do a talk now. It's going to be a little informal thing, no big deal and stuff like this. Is informal and stuff like that. I come in here, look at all these people, oh Lord. Anyway, I will do my best, right? So what I'll be going through is about 20 years of work, roughly, and 20 years of survival, shall we say, to be honest with you. Because I feel I've been keeping going for that long. And every time I think, well, it could end tomorrow. So I'm still here, I'm still going, you know. Anyway, so we start with the first images, please. And maybe this is my plea for all these old wooden buildings, like this wonderful one we are in here, you know. If somebody could donate some wood and fix some of them up. Okay, you can see what they are. This is the mosque in West Bank, Demerara. And these things, by the way, are very, very precious to me. I don't sell these things, they just remain with me. This one here is in the collection of the British Museum. I only say that because I had to be very, very heavily persuaded. Oh man, these people really want this thing. And I think, this is a big institution, but how you could say no and stuff like that. Anyway, so this is not about showing off. This is about how personal this work is to me. So this here is me. This is a Hindu temple at Golden Grove, and I'm drawing this thing as it's falling apart, and I'm sheltering underneath the new building, which was not for me at the time half as exciting as this old thing, which is octagonal, falling apart, but it was like a beautiful jewelry box. But there was something about the collapsing nature of it, which years later I started to realize had a kind of impact on the way I work, and the fact that I allow things to collapse and decay naturally. But I'll explain as I go along. Astor Cinema, of course, many misspent youth back in the 70s in Astor Cinema, seeing all the terrible films sent over, the Deep and Jaws and stuff like that. Okay, next slide please, next image please. Okay, so I went through a very strange period, and this is the late 90s, right? So this is 1997, 98, stuff like that. All these images are pastel drawings on charcoal, pastel on paper. This one here, this one, that one. These two are 5 foot by 4 foot, and the other ones over there are a little bit smaller. And they're based on European Victorian illustrations and art from, I don't know, basically European old masters and stuff like that, but twisting it and giving it my own thing. And I was having a lot of problems with the way people saw my work in England at the time. I would say, well, my work is inspired by growing up in Guyana and stuff like that. As soon as they heard that back then, people switch off. They didn't want to hear nothing anymore, you know what I mean? They were interested in what was happening in Britain, and they weren't interested in everything else. The situation's completely reversed. It's very, very different now. Back at that time, it was a whole weird thing going on. And I started doing all these things based on all these old images, and what I realized once I'd finished them was that these images were variations, or my personal imaginary variations, on all these books I had this is back in the 60s, early 70s, when I was at St. Gabriel's School down the road, and all the books were sent from England, and there were all these images of British heroes and heroines and stuff like that, and basically this is me sort of reworking that. And at times it takes me a while to realize what the basis of the work is about. And it's not that I hated those books, not remotely at all. It's just about taking something and making it your own, you know. And also, a lot of these things were covered. And the export was because people were saying, well, where this work comes from. And so I was presenting it, telling them, this is an export, i.e., if you say it's not British, it's not what is it? Okay, fine. I'll call all this stuff export art. You know? And it's covered in skulls as well, but the skulls were from kind of a guy I saw walking on the road in Brixton, and this is a height of very flamboyant male dance hall dress. You know, black outfit, big baggy black outfit with bright orange fluorescent skulls all over it. And you had to walk as if you had to hold yourself properly, otherwise you look like an idiot, you know. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so moving on from that, what I started doing was I started working in cardboard. And by the way, this is what happens when I run out of money, right? Basically, as everybody knows, art, you need money, but do you? Sometimes I wonder, right? How much money you need and how much money you don't need. That's something I debate with myself all the time. But that's another story. That's a long, long story. So this is Cardboard Palace. What I started out with was I started packaging old pieces of work in cardboard. I would go down the road in Brick Lane in England. Brick Lane is where the Bangladeshi community lives. And all the stuff imported there, that's where you go and get downs. All the fruits in Guyana, which I thought of as being purely, totally Guyanese, was all being imported from Thailand. And so it made me have this wider idea of colonialism and a wider view of what the system was. So stuff is like, oh, so I've seen downs trees in Australia. So it's like, oh, right. So, you know what I mean? It kind of messes my head a bit. Okay, so I started working in cardboard, packaging work up. And it was about an idea of, well, if people are trying to package me as well, we don't know where you come from, we don't know where to fit you, fine, I will package myself. And moving on from that, this is what came about. I started making these massive cardboard environments. Now, this is Cardboard Palace. It was made in 2002, so it's exactly 10 years ago. And 2000 Queen's Jubilee in England, and I started doing these images of the Queen. Now, the reason being that I didn't quite know why it was, and why it was it was a complex thing about identity. You know, like where you're Guyanese diaspora, but you're living in London, so you're living with this with the Queen as monarch. Fair enough. But then I started remembering what it was like when I was in St. Gabriel's. And in St. Gabriel's, as a child, right, what you do, right, is the standard thing. You have an exercise book with the president's face on it, or with the Queen's face on it. It doesn't matter. If you're a figure of power, you will get spectacles, mustache, and all this kind of stuff. And so that's what this was about, reworking these kind of ideas. But again, it's easy to sort of think, oh, you're tearing the Queen to bits. No, not enough. It's about an examination of a system, but also it's about memories of collecting stamps and stuff like that. You know. Anyway, you know what? Well, it's for a long time. It's very complicated. Right. Long story short, let me tell you how big this piece is. 30 feet long, right? No, take that back. 30 feet wide. About 75 feet long and 14 foot high. So it's massive. So if I'm standing here, right, I've reached about there. And it's a maze, basically. So you walk all the way around it, and it's a complete, and you got lost in it. Images of the Queen and Princess Margaret, and it's cut out cardboard, very simple technique, like a lantern, and then there's a light behind there, backlit against the wall, so it shines out. And I was looking into the whole idea of royalty, which I got quite fascinated by, and then ideas of power and stuff like that. But also into the fact that if you're the sister of the Queen, 3 years is the difference between you being the top of the tree or being somebody searching for, well, where's your situation in life? You know what I mean? So it's searching into that kind of thing, and it's a development of the earlier images, which were working through Velázquez and Spanish royalty from way back. Look, let's keep going. I'll try and run this thing through a bit faster than this. So these are more details. And at the time, right? At the time, Britain. This was 2002. So we're talking about 7-8 months after 9/11. So these cardboard pieces are covered in things which say up there, it says all elements, and it's protect from all elements, right? Protect from all elements being, if cardboard goes outside and gets wet, it gets decayed and destroyed. But also, there was a feeling of a society which is under pressure, fragmentation, because we were in a sort of everybody's looking to everybody. It's basically a post 9/11 situation. So you have this fragile cardboard thing covered in protect from all elements, covered in the sign from the Queen's coat of arms, which is on my passport. So I was investigating that idea as well, and yeah, and this is what it's like projected onto the wall, just naturally projected. Took 6 months. Can we go on to the next slide? It took 6 months to produce, and I ain't doing it again. By the end, I was so tired that I had to. It took me. I went to get some food the last day before the opening, and I was walking on the road, and the food shop was from here to the back of the room, and I had to stop in one shop here to get a bottle of Coke to get the energy to make it to the food shop, and I realized that I'm getting too old for this business.